You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
I think us as podcasters are artists. Brazilian Ty, we're artists, right?
We're like the Bob Ross of podcasts, aren't we?
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB, Brazilian Ty. So Saturday night, I did some announcing. The Red Deer College Kings, some ACAC hockey against the St. Trojans, and I had the most legendary slip-up in maybe hockey announcer history. So one of the RDC players had a penalty, 2 minutes for slashing. Well, me and my masterful control of the English language announced over the PA 2 minutes for flashing.
Did he get any beads?
Join Two and Out for CFL Fantasy and CFL Pick'em and show Currah and Ty what you got.
They are who we thought they were!
Just click cflfantasy.tsn.ca
Enough from talking about it. There has to be consequences.
and pick'em.cfl.ca.
The player didn't get any beads, but I got beads when I went to New Orleans. A guy, there was a dude, he was on the balcony on Bourbon Street, and he goes, "Hey, nice beard," and then he throws me some beads. I still have them.
I'm glad you qualified that story.
We're on the back end of another triple header in the CFL, and I got to say, I'm loving these triple headers. But we start Friday night. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers beat the Montreal Alouettes 31-14. Yeah, it's a 3-score difference, but the game, it probably wasn't as dominated by Winnipeg as maybe the score indicates or people thought they might have dominated Montreal, but this has to be a game that helps Matt Nichols get a little bit of that confidence back. 18 of 25, 256 yards, and a touchdown. And the big thing here, no turnovers. And I think we've seen it from the past that Matt Nichols, he was completely fine with throwing the ball away if the play wasn't there, and we saw that in this one. And he had been forcing it during this 4-game losing streak, but he sort of got away from it in this one, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. Forcing it maybe because he knows Strevler's there, and the success that he had early in the season kind of puts a little bit of added pressure on Matt Nichols. That being said, O'Shea left him in for all 4 of these losses. Sure, he pulled them, but I mean, he got the start in all 4, showing a lot of faith. But yeah, 18 for 25, like you said, didn't turn the ball over, takes care of the ball. It's Matt Nichols doing what Matt Nichols does. And, you know, they got the win. And this is a defense that can get pressure on a quarterback. We've seen it. They might not have the sack numbers, but they get lots of pressure.
I do think the big thing coming out of the game, though, is Winnipeg comes out of it really banged up, and they're just coming off a bye week here. Nick Dembski, Andrew Harris, and Adam Bighill all leave the game in this one. And, man, it's going to be a big week at practice, whether these guys can get back in there and be ready for Edmonton next week, because Winnipeg is desperate for wins. If they want to make it to the playoffs, they need to keep winning, and it doesn't get easy when they go to Commonwealth Stadium on Saturday night. So 3 star players, 2 Canadians banged up. That is not good news for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
No, and having Andrew Harris out, Keenan LaFrance served well in replacing, but Andrew Harris kind of makes that offense go, and without him, the offense has to change. And I don't know how, with Harris, they can establish a run. He can bruise, and the defense eventually has to respect that, and it opens things up for Matt Nichols to the air. With Andrew Harris out, Keenan LaFrance isn't that same running back and not as prolific as Andrew Harris is, so the whole offense has to change somewhat. Keenan LaFrance, he did play well, but, I mean, he's just not Andrew Harris.
And that's not a knock on him.
No, oh, God, no.
It's not his fault that he's not Andrew Harris, but Winnipeg here, oh, man. So Weston Dressler comes back, and he did only have 3 catches, but maybe it is just the presence of Weston Dressler in the receiving corps that really just helps that offense a little bit. They ended up showing a graphic, and their record with Dressler in the lineup and without him in the lineup, dramatically different. It is incredible how different they play when Dressler is in there, even though he only had the 3 catches. The leading receiver for Winnipeg was Kenbrell Tompkins, actually. 5 catches on 5 targets for 94 yards. Darvin Adams had 3 catches on 5 targets and the 62 yards. And, oh, man, so close to scoring that touchdown. I had many of those moments where my player was so close to scoring the touchdown. And we will get to your team. Brazilian Ty, it's about time you've had a week where you get to gloat about your team.
Well, I don't want to toot my own horn, but
oh, that double J. It was looking grim, though, until about the last 3 minutes of the fourth, though.
If only I could have stayed awake past halftime.
Oh, man, what a game that was. And I can't wait to get to this one. I guess we should talk about Johnny Manziel. 18 of 25, 212 yards, and an interception. It wasn't the worst game, and I got to say, he's getting better every time he's getting out there, but he was on the move a lot. The Winnipeg defensive line, Jackson Jeffcoat or not, were bringing the heat, and Craig Rowe ended up getting the hat trick of sacks in this game. Although one of them, I don't know, he basically tapped him out of bounds, and he got credit for the sack. So that was a little bit, I don't know if he should have got credit for that one, but
hey, was he behind the line of scrimmage?
He was.
Did Rowe force him out of bounds?
He did.
Then it's a sack. They don't ask how, they just ask how many.
So he does get the hat trick and has 7 tackles altogether in the game. What did you think about Manziel in this one?
Meh.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know how else to put it.
That does
until he starts throwing touchdowns. What does it matter? He's not leading this offense to prolific. He's not like he's throwing 400 yards and they're finishing off with runs in the red zone. He's not. He's getting yards and he's having some sustained drives, but he's not finishing drives whatsoever.
He did have 6 carries for 36 yards as well. So, I mean, that was good. We could see how mobile he was. You could tell that the defensive tackles had a really hard time getting to him. You're not going to arm tackle Johnny Manziel. But he had the longest receiving play of the game. He had a 22-yard catch.
Well, maybe they can get him and Pipkin into the starting lineup.
There we go. Manziel's now a star receiver.
Oh man, here we go.
Hey, that would be a Cavis thing to do, wouldn't it be?
There isn't anything more Cavis Reed.
Oh, but I mean, it has to do with his supporting cast as well. There were drop balls. There was a lot of pressure on him, and he made some bad choices as well. Winnipeg would have had, they sacked Manziel in the end zone, forced a fumble, recovered it for a touchdown, and then there was an illegal contact penalty on the play, which I had Winnipeg's defense. I was choked about that one, but that play really never should have happened from Manziel. But, I mean, he is getting better every time out, and I guess that's the most positive words I can say right now about his game.
Yeah, but, I mean, Pipkin was winning football games.
Yeah. I guess that's a difference. And he threw some touchdowns.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters at this point. They really needed to win these 2 games as well as those. Like, they needed to get on a hot streak to have a shot at the playoffs, and I think it's all but done now. So now we're just in garbage time, and we'll see what Manziel can do, because they're going to play teams that are going to be fighting for playoff spots and everything. So the games are still meaningful for the other teams. They're going to want to win. So he's going to be facing defenses that want to get the job done as well. It's not like it's September in major leagues and it's 2 teams that have 100 losses.
Watch him throw for 450 yards on Calgary in a few weeks.
Yeah, against like all their third stringers.
Yeah. Actually, Derek Dennis on Twitter already said that's the only game he's worried about the rest of the season.
Why would Dennis be aware? He doesn't have to go against them.
It's funny to see a player admit that.
Maybe they'll do like what we do in slow pitch. Maybe all the offensive linemen will play defense, and the defensive linemen will play offensive line. It's like when we pull in all the guys into the infield and put all the girls in the outfield when we're up by like 30.
Yeah, maybe Calgary get Dave Dickinson back in there. I think Claybrooks could probably still play.
Jeff Garcia looked like he could still play a couple weeks ago.
He looks like he could. Yeah, I would not want to fight him.
No.
He would work me.
There'd be 2 hits, him hitting me and me hitting the ground.
Let's move on to the first game of the triple header on Saturday. You know what? I think the triple headers this year have been a massive success, and I think they're coming at the right time, because after Labor Day, the intensity is awesome. The refs they're over their early season issues. I think for the most part, it was awesome football to watch all Saturday long, and all the games were decided by 7 points or less. And as far as Pick'em goes, this is the first week where I went 4-0, but you will never believe me because I didn't get that Ottawa pick in on pick'em.cfl.ca in time, but I did say it on the podcast. 28-15, the Ottawa Red Blacks won this one over the Edmonton Eskimos, and our thoughts going out to our friends in Ottawa. I know a lot of people there without power right now. I guess after the tornado, a couple of them ripped through on Friday night. It's almost kind of crazy that they were able to play this game altogether, considering the damage and the power outages that were happening in Ottawa and still are.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's going to be a while. Obviously, yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of infrastructure and a lot of work to keep a city of that size running. So, hopefully everybody that needs power has a way to get it, or find a place that has it and can stay there. And I've seen lots of posts with people cooking food and just posting it and being like, you can come over here, charge your stuff, have a shower. I don't care. Don't need to know you. Just doors open. So I mean,
that's awesome.
It's bringing a community together as well, which is a kind of a I don't know what the word I'm looking for here. A blessing in disguise. Right, a blessing in disguise is it brings a community together. People that don't even know each other end up talking and meeting, and then you might never see that person again. But it just reinforces that family aspect that not only like us as a country and civil and community, but the league trying to bring in diversity of strength. Well, it doesn't matter who you are, or where you're from. If you need help, there's going to be people out there willing to give it.
So, man, Ottawa probably could have won this game by a lot more, but was it 3 touchdowns that ended up getting called back to the penalty? Like, man, they were trying to give this game to Edmonton, but Edmonton just couldn't take it and run with it at all. What has Lewis Ward got to do to get a player of the game around here? 10 for 10?
Throw a touchdown?
The poor guy goes 7 for 7 for the second time this season. It's absolutely unheard of what he's doing. He's on an incredible streak right now. I believe he's only 4 or 5 field goals. His streak is over 30 right now. I think Rene Paredes has the record for 39 consecutive field goals. And the way things are going, Lewis Ward, he's coming up on that record, and he's a rookie.
Yeah, nothing like 22 points from your kicker.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Holy crap. And so the offense didn't even need to play, and they would have won 21 to 15. He probably should have been player of the game. But, I mean, a couple guys on the offense put up unreal numbers as well. So, I mean, you can't really go wrong with whoever got picked.
Yeah, it is hard to argue with William Powell, who had 23 carries, 147 yards. Brad Sinopoli had 6 catches on 113 yards. Just a smart receiver finding that pocket in the zone. And that's what I think a lot of people thought would happen in this one. And that's exactly what Sinopoli did. And there were 2 broken up touchdowns as well. Sinopoli could have had a massive game, even bigger than he already did. Greg Ellingson had the winning touchdown at the end of the game, 4 catches, 42 yards. Spencer at 89 yards. Harris, RJ had 51 yards. And Trevor Harris, I think he played okay. 23 of 30, 313 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Some beautiful throws. There was a scary moment when he ended up leaving the game. And I think we know if Ottawa loses Trevor Harris, then they could probably kiss their season goodbye. So they do need to keep him healthy.
That is an understatement.
Yeah.
His second straight game with 300 yards or more. Next week he's going to throw for like 160 with 3 picks then, right?
It could happen. He's got 2 in a row now, so.
So, I mean, we're getting dangerously close to him falling off the cliff for a couple weeks.
Now, so I don't even know where to go with Edmonton because they're kind of they're an inconsistent team too. Mike Riley is 27 of 41 for 276, a touchdown and an interception, which is kind of mediocre for him. Martese Jackson makes his Eskimo debut. He actually had a carry for a yard, but they were getting him involved on the offense as well, which I thought Toronto probably could have done more of. Jackson's brand new to Edmonton. He had 2 catches for 44 yards, and I think he made a bit of a difference in the return game as well. He averaged 19 yards on punt returns. So that's a big improvement to what Edmonton has seen in that aspect of their game for a little while.
And the return teams still need a little bit of work. He gets ahead of steam and gets home, but he's got nowhere to go. They're not a lot of holes open up for him. But I mean, the field position was a lot better than what they've been getting for the most part. And like you said, being more involved in the offense here than he was in Toronto, with James Wilder Jr. there, it's kind of hard to justify putting in Martese Jackson for a couple downs when Wilder can basically do whatever you ask of him. But it is nice to see him get touches and get that chance to be a regular player in a lineup.
I do wish that Duke Williams catch counted, though. Oh, man, that was something else. He had 10 targets, but they were only able to connect 4 times for 65 yards and a touchdown. If that catch counted, that's catch of the decade almost.
Yeah. Again, it's Duke, so you would expect nothing less.
Yeah. I do kind of want to talk about the CFL draft a little bit here because the way that Kwaku Boateng is playing is absolutely incredible. And I have to think the next time that this guy is getting close to free agency, he's going to come really, really expensive. 3 sacks in this one. And he was, a 5th-round pick?
Yep.
And here's the thing.
I believe he was 41st overall.
How does that happen? I know he probably had a combine where he struggled there. But, I mean, if we look at just the first overall picks from the last few seasons, it is not pretty. And sometimes even if you just look at the first round, it's not really the prettiest thing. So Mark Chapman, the Tiger Cats trade to get him first overall, and now it looks like he's going to go to that spring league in the States. So they might never see him in Hamilton. And the way Kwaku is playing, that's a first overall pick talent. Last year, Faith Kakady goes to the Bombers. Not even in the league. He ends up getting cut. Josiah St. John for Saskatchewan the year before that. I guess he's on the roster. He's
after holding out because he wanted more money because he was so good.
Yeah, because he was so good. And then in 2015, Alex Mateus. You know what? He's playing for the Ottawa Red Blacks, so I guess that one worked out for them. But, man, the first overall picks are just not working out, and that just shows some of these Canadian guys, I don't know how, they fall down the draft so far, and then they just become some of the most important players on your team, and Boateng is definitely one of them.
I would love to see him in a different shade of green.
Oh, man, have you seen him, Willie, and Charleston on the same team? You kidding me?
Yeah, well, then I could play quarterback, so I wouldn't need to score any points because Zach Collaros is already doing that. But we see it every year. Guys fall in the draft, and it could be poor combine showings. It could be, a couple bad games, or people see a flaw in their game. But, guys like Boateng just show that, one bad day or a bad game or a couple flaws can be worked through, and now he's turning into a premier pass rusher in this league, and it's nice to see.
It would be nice to see other teams figure out what to do with their running game here, because look at what Ottawa does when they get William Powell going. When he gets over 100 yards, they're almost unstoppable. And usually if your runner gets over 100 yards, it's because you're having a really good game. But they're giving him the carries. 23 carries. There are some backs in this league that don't get the usage that they deserve. And Powell is definitely getting what he deserves, man, because, now he's got the league lead in rushes. He passed Harris after this one. If Harris didn't leave the game early, they probably would be a little bit closer. And I'm thinking of BC here. The fact that they won, and Jeremiah Johnson had 5 carries in regulation, I'm just not getting it.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you can run the football successfully, on first down, make it second and short, second and manageable. You control the clock, and when you have the football, the other team can't score if you take care of the football and you're able to bleed that clock down and set up the run. You set up everything off the run game, and it just seems the offense is a heck of a lot more successful. And I think though with 3 downs, it makes it a little tougher. You don't want to be in a lot of second and 9, second and 8 situations, but I don't know. It's just there is backs in this league that are absolute workhorses and they don't get the touches, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And then the coach in the post game presser just, we just couldn't execute. Well, no, you got to let your playmakers play, and a lot of them don't do that.
And we go to the other running back for the Eskimos here, CJ Gable. And Andrew from the Eskimo Empire podcast tweeted, that's 4 turnovers inside field goal range in the last 4 quarters on the road. CJ Gable did have himself a fumble in this one. The Eskimos need to figure that out. They're giving away the ball a little too much in the offense consistently. And we saw it in this one. There were some incredible punts by Leone in this one. They're consistently working with a long field, and it does them no favors at all.
No, and we see it in Mike Riley's stats. He puts up a lot of numbers. Receivers getting a lot of yards. The rushing game, when effective, 6 rushes, 52 yards, that's effective running. But, with that average, I don't know why Gable's only getting 6 touches. I get it. They were down, but... when you got to drive the length of the field, it eats up clock. You're on there for a long time. If you come away with nothing, it's pretty deflating to an offense. So if they can figure out the returning game, it could go a long way. And give these guys some shorter fields. We might not see the huge numbers that we're accustomed to from this offense, stats wise, but if you only got to drive half the field, it makes life so much easier for your offense.
The Chris Edwards penalty came really late in this one. He almost made it.
Almost.
Close but no cigar for for Mr. Chris Edwards. Before we get to the next two games in the Super Saturday tripleheader, saying thank you to ATB Financial today. And I think this is really cool what they do. I think us as podcasters are artists. Brazilian Ty, we're artists, right?
We're like the Bob Ross of podcasts, aren't we?
And artists, if you're an artist, you don't make all that much money, or at least the income's not coming in regularly. So what ATB has is the ATB branch for arts and culture. And this is really cool. It's a bank, it's a music venue, a creative space. You can go there, you can network, you can meet other people, you can learn, but they know how it goes for artists, and I really think this is cool. It's a big networking and career development hub. They've got one in Edmonton and Calgary for creators, by creators, the ATB branch for arts and culture. You can get more information on that at atb.com/the branch. Now we go to Toronto. Brazilian Ty, I'm dying to know what you're thinking here. Zach Collaros, what did you think of his game?
Meh.
Come on.
233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Not the greatest game he's ever had. They lost because Medeiros missed 2 field goals. Let's be honest.
You know what? When people say that, though, it's almost like they discount what the offense did in the first half. Like, Thigpen's run didn't count, and the touchdown passes didn't count. But
that's not what I'm saying. But they got up, and then they didn't keep their foot on the pedal.
Well, I do think Toronto's defense / Saskatchewan's offense in the second half was not what it was in the first half. 100% there. And Collaros did only have the 56% completion percentage, so that is not that's not good. But there was a drive in the second quarter where it almost looked like 2015 Zach Collaros to me. Completed 2 beautiful passes to Naaman Roosevelt, and then capped it off with the touchdown pass to Jordan Williams-Lambert. And the Riders win this one 30-29, and that drive made me think, whoa, maybe he is back a little bit here. And I don't know. Is he shaking the rust off game by game? Is it a half by half, a drive by drive thing with Collaros in this offense? But it makes me wonder here why they don't get Thigpen the ball more.
I was thinking that when I was looking at stats and doing everything up this morning and last night. I was like, you only had 4 carries? They targeted him 3 times. He didn't catch any of them. So in all reality, he could have had a maximum of 7 touches. And he is, I don't know why Trey Mason's still getting the ball. Thigpen makes things happen. If he can bounce a run to the outside, it's an extra 5-10 yards. And like we saw last night, it's an 85-yard touchdown. This guy needs to be in the lineup and be used regularly if you want to see this offense be more consistent. Give him the ball. Let's establish the run. That gives Collaros a chance to maybe work off a little play action and go take shots downfield. 14-25 for 233. That percentage is crap. The yard total isn't the best, but 14 completions is not bad. He did throw 2 picks. One was a pick 6. There's still warts here, and I don't know what'll fix them. But they're only 2 games back of Calgary, so they're going to host. They have a chance to host the West Semi, and with an offense like this, I never thought that would be a possibility.
Yeah, this game became really big when Edmonton lost to Ottawa, and Edmonton they needed that Ottawa win to get that home playoff game, and that home playoff game, that West semi it's almost the best place to be because you never know what you're going to get with Calgary. Sometimes that bye in the playoffs screws you. Sometimes it really doesn't, and it's beneficial. But a lot of times you get that home playoff game in the semifinal, you win it, and then you go to the final with all the momentum, and it can really help you and take you to the Grey Cup. So, I mean, you look at the Riders. When they last won the Grey Cup, they were hosting the West Semi and went to Calgary, beat them there, and then won the Grey Cup at home. So it can be really, really nice to have that semifinal at home. But if we look at Marcus Thigpen's stats, he's got 43 carries on the season for 383 yards. His yards per carry average is 8.9.
Yeah, but let's not give him the ball on a consistent basis.
No, I don't know if Jones is trying to keep him fresh. He's a veteran guy,
maybe
32 years old. And if he is, now's the time, I think, to let him loose because there's only about 5-6 more games left in the season. They got to make things happen here because he's had 2 rushes of over 80 yards this season. Maybe it's teams not expecting it because they've had Mason in there, and this is a bit of a change of pace when Thigpen gets in there, man. But, wow, he's basically scoring a touchdown on 10% of his carries and almost 9 yards a carry. So you have to keep him in there.
Yeah. I don't understand. I know that I get the whole wanting to keep him fresh. Not overuse them, but if winning football games is a priority. I don't think keeping guys healthy. I'd rather go into a final with somebody getting hurt. In the game before because we're trying to win that game. I don't worry too much about the next game. I'm worried about winning the one they're in.
Now, Naaman Roosevelt, I think this is probably his biggest game of the year. 5 catches, 105 yards. The next closest receiver is Shaq Evans with 58 yards. But Jordan Williams-Lambert, 2 catches, 17 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's got a pretty high, touchdown percentage lately as well. I did want to see more from Kyron Moore. 1 catch for 25 yards. It was about 3 yards from a touchdown. And that hurt my fantasy team as well. Come on, because I took Mike Jones out.
Oh, yeah, that was good. That was a good move.
That was totally a good call. I guess to talk about Toronto, Macbeth, 32 of 44, 321 yards and an interception. So showing that, you can move the ball against the Saskatchewan defense. James Wilder Jr. only had 9 carries for 48 yards. But he also had 7 catches for 74 yards, and this basically all came, I think, in the third quarter. I don't know what happened, but in the second quarter, it almost looked like Wilder may have been sat on the bench. They put in Brandon Burks. He had 5 carries for 24 yards, and he also had 2 catches, I believe Burks had, only for the 1 yard, so that didn't really work out. But Burks, if you remember, had the touchdown of the preseason, and I know it was the preseason, but this guy's got speed, he's got talent, and Wilder has been struggling the entire season. This isn't really a new thing for James Wilder this season. After last year bursting on the scene, he holds out in the offseason, wants more money, and maybe he deserved it judging off the performance from last season, but I don't know if he gets himself another raise the way this year's going.
Yeah. In professional sports, you're paid for what you've done.
Yeah, you are, yep.
With contracts, the one league that's starting to buck that trend is the NHL, where they're not the best case right now is William Nylander not giving him the amount of money he wants because he hasn't proven, or they don't know what his ceiling is yet, right? So they want to pay a lot less, and it's the same thing in football. The only thing with football is your career could be over that night. Guys want the financial security, which is tough for teams to dole out that money, not knowing what they're going to get as a player gets older. That being said, James Wilder Jr. is by no means old for football, but 16 touches as one of the premier backs in this league just isn't enough.
No, it just really isn't. But at the same time, he hasn't been getting it done. In this one, to be fair, he had over 5 yards of carry. And, I mean, if you're getting 5 yards on first down, that is a pretty good spot to be in for your offense. S.J. Green, 6 catches for 106 yards, including that play in the first half where he fought to get himself down to the goal line with Nick Marshall there. And I don't get it. Sometimes when defenses just have these coverage breakdowns, a receiver, Toronto number 19 should never be left that wide open.
Yeah, well, neither should Hamilton's number 12, but that's a story for another time.
But he was, and he made it happen. He ended up leaving the field a little bit. Looks like maybe his back was bugging him a bit. But I think S.J. Green's still one of the premier receivers in this league. I got to mention, Duron Carter, 1 target, no catches.
How long until that becomes an issue in that dressing room?
2 weeks?
Oh, I'll take the under.
Oh, Duron. And then it looks like they had him sitting on the bench as well. Nothing happening for him there either.
Yeah, and Trestman tries to sugarcoat and say, he's not ready. He's not ready to get all those targets yet. Then why is he in your lineup if he's not ready for a workload yet?
He's been there for 3 weeks?
Like, why are you putting him in the lineup if you're claiming he's not ready? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Waste of a spot, man.
Absolutely it is. Give me a break. You don't... If he's not... They're saying he's not ready for the workload, but he's ready to play. So I get that maybe he only knows a little bit. He's still working his way into this offense. If that's the case, find some... There's guys in your practice roster that... Or, that maybe you've overlooked that can play and can actually be an effective player in this offense, because right now Duron Carter isn't, and you're wasting the spot on him.
7 penalties between the two teams for 75 yards. So this game, I thought, flowed very well, and it came down right to the very end. But Zachary Medeiros missed 2 field goals inside of 3 minutes. 2 of them, one from 36, one from 51. You can't fault him there, but Brett Lowther, 3 for 3 with a 56-yard field goal to go ahead for Saskatchewan in this one.
We've seen Medeiros. Hey, he has the leg to kick.
He did
a field goal from where Lowther did, for example. Yeah. His accuracy isn't very good.
No.
He hit the upright a couple weeks ago on a game winner. He missed last night. He missed 2 last night in the span of under 4 minutes. You need to figure this out, or you're going to be looking for work.
Yeah, and it might be happening sooner rather than later.
However, it was better than last week in the NFL with kickers, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, it was a rough one down there.
Only 11 missed field goals in the morning games. Hola.
In the morning games. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So
11 missed field goals, 6 missed converts, and 2 kickers got fired.
But they're good enough to play in the NFL, right? That's funny how that works. The standings in the East, as they stand right now, Toronto at 3-9, Montreal at 3-10. They are probably, I don't know. Can we say they're 100% going to miss the playoffs? I think so. Both of those teams are 6 points behind BC and Winnipeg in this one. So I think we can say with almost a lot of certainty that we are going to see a crossover again this season. It's just going to come down to BC and Winnipeg. And you know what? BC is only 2 points behind Edmonton with the game in hand. So
and 2 home games left.
So don't count BC out there.
3
They're 5-1 at home.
They got 3 home games left this year, so that puts them at 9-6. They win 1 on the road, and they're at 10-8.
Wow. So big win for Saskatchewan. Let's talk about that BC game, which, holy man, I guess we saved the best for last. The BC Lions win in overtime, the first overtime game of the year, 35-32. Oh, man. And it was just a beautiful game. Neither Jonathan Jennings or Jeremiah Mazzoli turned the ball over at all. And I think that's a big thing for both of these quarterbacks in this one, considering who Jeremiah Mazzoli had at receiver. They're without Jalen Saunders, Brandon Banks, and I think Chris Williams only got in the lineup for one game, but there's a veteran receiver that you're not without here. And it was good to see John White do what he did. He got himself a lot of carries, 19 carries for 62 yards. And the only thing I like about that is that they didn't abandon the run, and he scored himself a touchdown. He had 2 catches for 17 yards on top of that as well. I'm just a fan of John White. He's a hard worker. I think a lot of veteran guys would not sit on the practice roster and work until they get back into the lineup. Alex Green was out. He was able to come in and have himself a nice game in this one.
You had John White in your lineup, didn't you?
I did. I do talk my guys up.
I wonder how I could tell.
I also want to mention him because sometimes I think June Jones is a little too open. You know, I like when players and coaches are honest, but he said in the mid-game interview that, oh yeah, we were looking to trade him, and we were actually going to trade him to BC, but no, we kept him around. Who says that? I thought that was straight up bizarre that he said that.
That is ridiculous. I'm so mad at myself for turning it off now.
And didn't he said, well, he tried this with Manziel earlier, didn't he? Or who was it earlier this season? We're going to trade so-and-so by the end of the day.
That is a great question. We'd have to go back and look. But...
It actually might have been another player, but he's like, we're going to trade so-and-so by the end of the day. And I'm sure the other GMs are like, well, we'll just wait and maybe get him for nothing.
Yeah, no doubt. Can't find any trading partners. We'll just try to sign him and not have to give up any assets.
So Mazzoli, let's start with the Tiger Cats. 19 of 25 for 311 yards. Mike Jones, the leading receiver, 3 catches for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a big touchdown. Well, he had 2 big touchdowns, I guess we should say. Speaking
of guys who were open.
Yeah, no kidding. So we had the big one earlier in the game, but then with about a minute and a half left, he ends up scoring the big touchdown to put the Tiger Cats ahead, and when we all thought the Tiger Cats were in a good position. Tasker, 5 targets, 5 catches for 77 yards, and that's about the extent of Hamilton's pass offense in this one. And how about the little bit of deja vu there? A kick return getting called back due to a flag at BC Place for the Tiger Cats. I'm sure some Tabbies fans
triggered.
A little bit twitchy at that one. But what's with the kick return factory in Hamilton? It feels like they went straight from Chris Williams to Brandon Banks to now they have Addison here, who looks like a fine returner himself.
That's a great question. Now, well, I mean, at first, my guess would have been Reinbold. But now he's gone. But I think a lot of the guys are still there, and a lot of the same schemes. I would assume that you don't want to come in and change too much on that special teams unit because it's worked for so long. But yeah, they have a way of figuring it out and making the return game work for them, and it's awesome.
Jonathan Jennings didn't really have that much going until, like I said, the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. He goes 32 of 47 for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. What I want to mention about the Lions offense, and I don't get it. Jeremiah Johnson had 7 carries for 25 yards. And I believe 2 of those carries were in overtime. Why is your starting running back not getting the ball at all?
If you're going to do that with Jeremiah Johnson, why not do it with Chris Rainey so he's not pissed off?
Well, and I mean, Rainey had himself 4 carries, but either way, it's not enough.
Yeah. No. You could have... I don't know if it would have changed, how much it would have changed, because, I mean, we know or how good Hamilton's offense is. But, Johnson, you'd like to think of him up in that upper echelon of running backs in this league. But the rate of usage the last couple weeks has just been downright atrocious. It hasn't been good. The numbers have been low. And, he just shuts up and carries the ball and does his job. But he needs to get way more touches than 12 in a game. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I feel like Tedford's there again.
The Lions ended up taking a lot of penalties that put them in the hole early. They had 10 of them for 154 yards. And then Hamilton had 6 for 75. I do want to talk about 2 big hits that happened about a minute apart. And one is textbook, a clean hit that allowed these days, and that was Mike Daly, the safety for Hamilton, with a huge hit. And then on the very next drive, Anthony Thompson for BC, when the play's over to Terrence Tolliver, basically lays the forearm into his head and smashes Tolliver. He ends up getting the penalty on that one, but you got to think Thompson is probably going to be fined this week, and he also had another pass interference in this one as well, so he gave up a lot of yards through penalties for BC.
Yeah, and stuff like what he did with Tolliver there. Why?
There was no point. The play was done.
What is the point? And I will never buy into it's an emotional game crap with stuff like that, because you are literally trying to hurt somebody, and it's not your job. It's your job to stop them. It's not your job. They're out there trying to earn a paycheck too. You're putting at jeopardy their livelihood. So I mean, it's stupid. It's unnecessary. That Mike Daly hit on Collins,
it was beautiful.
That was perfect. And granted, Collins probably got hurt. I mean, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Mike Daly, there's nothing malicious about it. That's a football play. Collins knows what he's doing. He's going over the middle for that ball. And Derek Taylor even said it on SportsCenter this morning. Separated a couple ribs probably and the ball. So I mean, he hit him hard, but it's clean, and that's where you want to hit somebody is in the torso. It's really hard to get a penalty that way.
Yeah, he got his head out of the way. He laid the shoulder into his midsection. I thought it was a great hit, and just the contrast between the 2 hits on this one. And we talk about player safety all the time, but in that situation, it's up to the player, man. Like, there's only so much you could do for equipment and rule changes and all this garbage.
Yeah,
but it's up to the player.
The players need to change, right?
And that might take a generation.
Well, we're still seeing people getting thrown out for targeting in the NCAA, so it might take a little longer than that.
Yeah.
We talk about how, especially in hockey, guys will turn at the last second and get hit from behind. Well, they need to protect themselves better. And in football, there is some of that as well. Bracing yourself for hits and such, but stuff like the Tolliver incident, what are you supposed to do there? That is, like you said, all on the player, and it's not on the player getting hit; it's on the player doing on the player hitting. So, something needs to change, and I don't know. You can find guys as much as you want. We obviously know it doesn't work, i.e., Kyrie Bear. So. It's going to take a while for it to get weeded out of the game, and I don't know if it ever will.
Props to Mazzoli for his performance again because of the experience or lack of it in his receiving core. But Jonathan Jennings was going up a pass defense that was number 1 in the CFL. Of course, they have Delvin Breaux, who shuts down receivers here. But the end of this game was pure Canadian football, the reason we love the CFL. Just running through the receivers, Devere Posey had 3 catches, 50 yards. Brian Burnham, the hero, 10 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You paired him up with Jennings in this one. You are a fantasy genius for this week. And, oh man, so Hamilton
the
takes...
last 3 weeks notwithstanding.
You see, you still got a ways to go to get back to the top of our group as well, but this one is a good step back in there.
Yeah,
we do need to recap the last, I guess, 90 seconds or so of this game, because Hamilton takes the lead, the big Mike Jones touchdown, and then BC, they don't get it done on the next drive. Hamilton takes it over, and they could have kicked a field goal, I think. At least attempted a field goal or pin BC very, very deep with a punt there. But I think this is a case of June Jones and his inexperience in the Canadian Football League getting a little cute. And let's face it, we love the Rouge. We love when teams go for the Rouge. But June Jones probably went for the Rouge at the exact wrong time. He goes for the Rouge. Then they've got an 8-point lead. But Hamilton's defense had BC. 14 seconds left. 3rd and 7 on their 37-yard line, and they drive the field? Are you kidding me? Oh,
that's pretty bad.
Jennings made a beautiful throw to get that touchdown to bring them within 2, and then Burnham's catch on that 2-point conversion, unbelievable.
Oh, mama.
On the field, it was called incomplete, but when you look at the replay, he gets that foot down half an inch inbounds. Unbelievable way to send that game to overtime.
How that punt doesn't go out of bounds, it boggles my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the only argument I have is that, well, now we're forcing them to make 2 plays because they have to get the 2-point convert.
Yeah.
But you're also giving them the ball at the 35.
Well, exactly.
Like that ball has to go out of bounds, or you need to try the field goal. And that's a very makeable field goal for Lirim Hawryllahu, especially indoors. And then you're up by 10, and that game is over. Like, June Jones got out-coached a little bit in those final 2 minutes.
Yeah, he got out-coached by the Master, and the Master took some risks in this one, too. He went for it on 3rd and 4 late in the game that ended up paying off for Wally Buono. But that being said about Lirim Hawryllahu and saying we're indoors, he can make that kick, well, he missed the field goal in overtime, a 42-yard field goal to let BC...
It's still, again, he had the leg for that one. Those are makeable kicks. Those are makeable kicks, and I'd rather take my chance trying to get points than knowing that the best I can do is a single.
It was a fun way to end that game, no matter what happens in this one. And I guess some props to Davon Coleman for the BC Lions. 8 tackles, 3 sacks. Holy man, there were some sack tricks this week. Some defensive linemen bringing the heat. Yeah,
then, the game, we say this is a passer's league. It's a league predicated on offense, but those defensive guys get paid too. Yeah. And they show up. I'm going to give you, 2 minutes right now to brag about your fantasy lineup, buddy. Well, I don't want to break too much. But, I mean, I was 4th overall in my DraftKings out of 310 people, so I won $12.
Hey, nice. What'd you pay?
$3.
Look at that. You're
so
in the green.
400% profit.
Nice.
So, Jennings, 28.4. Paired him with Burnham, who had 33, so not bad. Andrew Harris before he got hurt, 13.4. John White at 15.9. Bryant Mitchell, at 16.9. My flex spot was Luke Tasker, so I obviously picked the wrong Tiger Cat, but he still got 14.7. And I had, of all teams, I had the Eskimos defense, and they got me 7 points. I finished tied for 5th overall in TSN Fantasy. and like with everybody, because somebody picked the exact same roster I did. So I could have been in 5th all by myself, but somebody had the exact same roster I did, so we split 5th. We didn't win anything, but we tied for 5th.
Well done, buddy.
So I am on the comeback trail here with 6 weeks to go.
I had a mediocre week. My highest scoring player, Brad Sinopoli, 17.3 points. So we'll just leave it at that.
Well, no, here, let me see. What do we got here? Oh, Travis Currah. Oh, yeah.
It's not bad. It's mediocre.
Well, I mean, your quarterback only scored half of what mine did.
Hey, I'm 4.5 points out of the lead in our group, and you are 28 points out. So,
yeah, 3 bad weeks it took me to fall that far back.
Consistency. Slow and steady wins the race.
Okay, well, let's check your season then. Yeah, pretty consistently awful. Yeah. Okay.
Come on!
I'm kidding.
Hey, did you get a higher score than 142.6?
142.6. I don't go after the high scores because I find that if I do that, the next week is kind of a letdown.
Okay, so you're gonna blow it next week then.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull a Trevor Harris.
Okay. Awesome. We are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. You got to check out all of the great podcasts on the network. Now that NFL football is underway, check out the Tight Ends podcast. I wouldn't call Brazilian Ty and I a pair of tight ends, but you check out the Tight Ends podcast.
Hopefully nobody
Alberta
takes
Podcast
that out of
Network.
context.
Yeah. And check out all the great shows, albertapodcastnetwork.com. Brazilian Ty, we'll have you back, and we'll talk to you Thursday morning. Give us a rating, a review, and a subscription on iTunes, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.